Hi guys, my name's Kevin Dalke. I work for a little company called Red Shed Supply, and today I'm here to talk to you about engineering. But the truth be told, I'm really here to talk about the engineering process. And the engineering process is quite important, and you can use it in many different ways. You don't necessarily have to use it as an engineer, but you can still use it in other aspects of your life. So I'm going to talk about these machines that I've made, and we're going to talk about the process and how they kind of fit together. So for those of you that haven't seen the process or don't know for sure what I might be talking about, everything in engineering starts with an idea, and from the idea then it comes into study and you research it. So you really get into it and you kind of look for ways to solve your problem that you have with your idea. You make an attempt. Once you've made that attempt, you try it out. If you try it out, you're kind of evaluating it, meaning you're going to look for things to make it better. And as you do, you might come up with a new idea. And as you get that new idea, you really start the process back over again. So really, engineering is a circular deal where you just start with an idea and work your way through the process, and you kind of end up back where you started. So that's what kind of happened. So when I started my business, one of the things that I do, I sell to teachers. So when I sell to teachers, I really wanted to find out what they needed help with. So I started to ask where most teachers needed help, and many of them at the time came back and said, I would really like help teaching my engineering class. So I started thinking about ways that I could actually make that happen. So when I started to do those research deals, there wasn't a lot of engineering out there. So I did my study and research, but I found out there wasn't many things that were available to the teachers to use for engineering. So I started to think of different ways to show kids about machines and how machines might work, and there wasn't much there. And then I thought, well, I could take an existing machine and tear it apart and bring in the parts. But when I did that, things were really heavy and they were really greasy and they were really dirty, and none of that made much sense to use as a display for teachers. So I made this machine. This is my first machine. It's been around for about 5 years, and it took about 200 hours for me to make it, and it took a lot of trial and error, meaning I went around in that design process many times because I had many failures that I had to fix when I was putting this machine together. I didn't have plans that I could follow, so I had to come up with it on my own. So I'm going to turn it on right now, and you'll see it start to move, and then we'll show you different parts of it. So one of the things I had to do is I had to get this arm to come up. To do that, I had to take circular motion to see how this wheel is turning around in a circle, and I had to turn it into kind of a linear motion, which just means it goes back and forth. And I just want to show you how I did that. I actually just connected that rod to the wheel. As the wheel goes around, it actually makes the arm go forward and backward. So that's how I got that to move. Underneath here, I want to show you there's actually a stairwell that's inside the machine. Hard to see it, but the stairwell has pistons in it. Now to show you how those work, I made another little machine here, and this will show you how pistons and cams work. So you can see the marbles are all the way at the bottom right now. So as I turn it, you're going to see the marbles come up, and as they come up, they go all the way to the top. So again, I'm taking circular motion, which is on the handle, and I'm turning it into linear motion going up and down, and that's how the marbles raise up inside the machine. And then on the back of the machine, I just want to show you a few things here. One is the bike bell. So every fourth marble that comes into the machine will come down this path, and it hits the bike bell. We'll do that one more time, just because it's fun. There it goes. All right, so there's one of the 4 paths. Another one of the 4 paths off the top is right here. And that one goes a little quicker. And it just has a bunch of different routes that it can take throughout there. So. All right, we'll see. We'll go do one more. There you go. So again, that's just another way for the marbles to work their way down into the machine and get all the way down to the bottom. All right, so one of the very first things that I designed in the process, I wanted to come up with animals that would actually move. And animals moving was kind of my first thought process is how I could do mechanical things. So this bird on the very top of the machine here, this bird was the very first part of the machine that I made. As silly as that might sound, it just goes back and forth and rocks back and forth. And that is all done with the back wheel that's there, but it makes the bird move. And that's what I wanted to accomplish. So as silly as it might sound, that started the whole machine. All right, the other things now on the front here, we're going to have you come all the way around, guys. All right, so I want to show you this, and we'll grab some marbles here. One of the simple machines that you guys have been studying is just a lever. It's like a teeter-totter. And when the weight of that when the weight of one end of it becomes greater than the other, it just happens to tip it. So I want to focus in on this. See the heavy marble right here? That heavy marble weighs about the same as 4 of these marbles. So what happens is, I'm starting this down, and you see how that chamber is filling up with marbles. Okay, there's 3. I want you to listen close. When I put the 4th marble in, you're going to hear something. I just want you to listen for that. So inside my barn roof is a xylophone, and it's just got little keys on it that the marbles bounce off and go down. But again, focusing in on that, that's just one of the simple machines that you guys have been studying, and again, it trips on the 4th marble. So that gives you a pretty good idea of my machine so far. All right, so I want to show you the second machine now. The first machine traveled with me for about 5 years before I introduced the second machine. And I looked for themes. A lot of times I get those themes from the actual students that have seen the machine. So we started adding up, what are kids looking at these days? And one thing that came up to me quite often was the use of a construction zone. So I went back with the ideas from the kids. That's where it started, it was right here in our design process. The idea came from the kids to actually do a construction zone. So I went ahead and started that. I studied, I researched, looked at all the different components that might be in a construction scene, and then I started my attempts. I evaluated my attempts. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't, and I had to start over many times. But at least you see the process is still working off of a theme that was actually given to me by kids. Now, before I get too far into the machine, I want to tell you a little bit more about me, and then maybe this will help some of you guys kind of just reset the way you're going at life right now. So, when I was a kid, and not really I remember back to about 3rd grade. When I was in 3rd grade, I was probably one of the lowest kids in the class. I was kind of shy and introverted, and I didn't really talk to many kids. My grades were terrible. I mean, it was really a battle. And frankly, I hated school, and I kind of laugh at it today, and I felt like school hated me. And that was just really tough. And I know sometimes that happens to some of you guys too. You just get the feeling you don't have a lot of energy for school, and you don't know what to do about it. So here's what happened in my life, and then we'll talk a little bit. Maybe you can apply it. So one day I got off the bus, and I could not handle it anymore. I started to cry, and I went in, and my mom was there. She saw me just break down, and I was really upset. So we talked a little bit about school and what it might look like in a different light. So one thing that we decided to try that day was I decided to come home, and I was going to do my homework right when I got off the bus. Now, normally when I got home, I kind of went out and played for 2 or 3 hours, came in for supper, went back out and played for another couple hours, and then I tried to do my homework just before bedtime. And I wasn't very fresh. I was tired, and I couldn't remember what the teacher had told me because it was 6, 8 hours ago. So for me, that was one of the problems I had, was getting my homework done. So we just started that one thing. I said, as soon as I get off the bus, Mom and I agreed we'd do my homework, and then we'd go on from there to the rest of the fun stuff. So that was our idea, to come back with that idea in mind, and maybe I could improve my grades. And sure enough, when we did that and we started to attempt it, it wasn't very long. My math grade was the first to come up. I studied my math right when I got off the bus. I remembered so much more of it, and it was so much more fresh that I started to, grasp the concept a lot easier. So if you're struggling with it, one of your classes, maybe that might be something you could try, or it's something completely different. But I want you to try something different anyway. If what you're doing today isn't working, it's a matter of coming up with a new idea and just applying it and attempting it. And if you can do that, you're going to find that things will start to move around in your life a little bit. Now, from third grade, being the lowest kid in the class, I just want to put this in perspective. It wasn't until I was in ninth grade that I made the A honor roll. So it took 6 years of trying things a little differently, looking at things in a different way, and coming back and learning, did that work or didn't it? And if it worked, we kept going. If it didn't, we dropped that and tried something else. So 6 years later, I had accomplished it. And it's amazing how much more fun school became. And instead of being the introverted kid in the back of the classroom that nobody really talked to, I had a blast. I had more friends now than I'd ever had. So things kind of came together for me. So if you're in that place where, gosh, school isn't as fun as it should be, you might just want to come at it just one different way. One thing I've told students all along is, if you're sitting in the back of the class and you kind of do this when you're at school, teachers are going to see that and they're going to think you're not very interested. But if you sit up on your chair and you sit up with good posture and you pay attention, you're actually engaged with the teacher, it's amazing how much better they feel about what's happening too. And relating to people is what it's all about. So if you can relate better to your teacher, it might help. So again, it's a small thing from here, up here, but that one thing could really make a difference in how things are going in your class. I know that sounds silly, but it is. It's just, that's what I'm talking about. You try one thing, it might work, it might not. But anyway, that's how we go. So I just want to share that with you about me, just so you think, gosh, where'd this guy come from? Well, I came from where you guys are at. I get it. I really do. Now this machine, again, is a construction zone machine. It has, just like the other one, there's one motor that drives both machines. That motor is driven off electricity, so these machines are plugged in. This one is a construction theme, so what I started with was I came up with the little devices that looked like construction. So this is the bulldozer, if you will. I had to modify it many times to get it right, but that was my bulldozer. There's a dump truck inside here, which you'll probably see in a little bit. We're going to get the camera around so you can see different angles of it. And then there's also a crane. All things were related to kind of the idea of a construction zone. So I'm going to turn this machine on. It is quite a bit louder than the other machine, so I will try to talk clearly, but we might have to just, you might just have to look for a while and then I can talk later, but we'll figure it out. So here we go. The machine's coming on. And see, there's that motor. It makes a little more noise, so we'll figure it out. But I want to show this to you. Here again, we've got a circular motion. As this is going around, it's turned into linear motion. And then that arm right there actually is connected to the bulldozer, and that pushes the marbles up the hill. So let's add a few marbles. It'll take a while for them to cycle up to the top. And then they're going to come out. Oh. All right, so they're coming out the top up here. And every fifth marble will drop down. So here comes the marbles. There's three. There's four. And I'll show this to you in a little more detail in a second. Come on, guys. There you go. Got jammed, but that's okay. There they come. All right, here's our fourth marble. Now watch, on the fifth marble, it'll tip the whole thing, and there they go, it starts over. So that was one of my things that I wanted to accomplish. the kids had challenged me to make a wooden calculator. So what I did is I made a calculator, but it only counts to 5. But it still works. Every 5th marble, it counts to 5. And it'll dump it, and away to go. So there's my wooden calculator, if you will. So now you can see down in here where the marbles are getting pushed back up, and then they come over here and they start the whole process over. We'll show you the back in a second. The dump truck gathers the marbles, and at some point, when this goes all the way back, you're going to see the bulldozer go back. When it goes back, the dump truck will dump. So I had to figure out a way to put those two together, because if the marbles dumped at the wrong time, like right now, they wouldn't fall into the machine. They wouldn't stay in front of the bulldozer. So those two work together. And the other thing you'll notice that works together is this pulley right here. This pulley lifts up the pallet. That's attached to the back of the bulldozer. So when the bulldozer goes back, it lets it go down. When the bulldozer pulls forward, it pulls the pulley up, and it makes that rise up. All right, I'm going to show you the side. All right, so over here you see a few things happening. One thing I want to show you is this marble pump. What happens is one marble gets in the bottom of the machine, and it pushes the marbles up, and then it drops it out the top. And the way that works is there's a little spring-mounted lever right there that pulls the marbles. When they go up, it goes past the lever, but it won't let them drop back down. Let's see it here in just a second. Here it comes. There's a marble in the chamber. Goes up, pushes the top one out, and it holds it in place. That took quite a bit of engineering to do that. I had many failures with that, but I finally got it to work right. And on this machine, I put a plexiglass slide on it so you can actually see it. All right, now I want to show you next is over here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about gear ratios. This is what engineers do to speed up and slow down machines. So I want you to look at the lines on the gears here. There comes the line, and see how they come together right there? Okay, now this one's going to go around, and it's back where it was, but notice this line is way over here. Now when it comes around the second time, they come back together. So that's a gear ratio. So this gear is spinning one time for every time this gear spins twice. And that's what engineers do to speed up and slow down machines. If you look inside your car, if you could, in the transmission, there's actually gears of different size, and that's what allows your car to go forward at different speeds. And then the last thing on this machine I want to show you is this, which is like I had in the other machine. If you guys remember, we took circular motion and I put it into these pistons, and it pumps the marbles up. And then from there, it only allows one marble out at a time. And then they come out the top. And so they go from the bottom of the machine to the top of the machine, all right here. And just to be kind of silly, guys, I put the switches for the machine actually in this little outhouse. So when I lift up the toilet seat, that's where my switch is. So it's just kind of a fun way to do it. So again, this was an idea that came from students. They wanted to see if I could make a construction zone type machine, and this is what I came up with. So it took about 175 hours for this to be made, and it's a little quicker than the last one I made. And part of that is, and you guys can talk about that in your classes, but one of the reasons for it is it really came down to I just had better understanding of how the gears and things would work together. So the design process was quite a bit quicker. There's more complexity here. There's a lot more things going on than there is in the other machine, but it took me less time to make because I had a better understanding of how to make it. So that gives you some idea of my two machines. Now again, this machine here, let's talk again. Everything on this machine is recycled. I didn't go out and buy a bunch of new stuff. It's all recycled off of different little elements that I had. Oh, I showed you the helicopter, I hope, or you saw it. But anyway, the helicopter spins around along with the other. There's a gear over here that drives that. So. All right, so that's my two machines, and I guess I'd just like to challenge you guys to come up with some ideas of your own. And if you have ideas for me, let your teachers know, and then they can get a hold of me. So maybe a lot of the things I get are like 2 or 3 days later. Kids will come up and say, "Hey, can you make this or can you make that?" And if that's the case, your teachers can email me, and I can start jotting down some ideas. So that's my presentation, guys. Just wanted to share it with you today, and thanks for inviting me, and I appreciate your teachers having me here.